Hello everyone. Today I will be sharing about group stalking and some of the fear-based reactions that are triggered in these situations. Now let's get started. Group stalking, if you haven't heard of it, is the coordinated harassment of a person over a period of time by a group of people in order to intimidate and instill fear. It's a form of psychological conflict that leaves its victims feeling helpless and alone. In previous videos, I've shared a lot of my experience with group stalking and discussing reactions of targeted individuals, such as changing locations or packing up everything and moving to a new living space, or choosing to leave their support network and attempting to reestablish themselves in a new space to get away from their situation. But is that really what the targeted individual truly desires, or is it a fear-based reaction? I would say that for me, I did all of those things at one point, and it definitely was a fear-based reaction and very out of character. Something I would not consider under any other circumstance, and not something I wanted to do at the time, but felt that I needed to do in complete desperation. Fear has a powerful influence on the way we think and act. It can lead to impulsive and irrational decisions, but when fear takes over, we often make decisions that are more harmful than helpful. When I was at my worst point in group stalking, I was psychologically attacked day and night. If I was breathing, then I was afflicted in one way or another. Fear took over like a black cloud I just couldn't see past. The fear was cold and it was lonely and wouldn't relax for any amount of time. The type of fear that takes hold of a person who acts out in ways that align with the stigma of being a targeted individual. I remember confiding in a friend that I was afraid, and she warmly suggested that I not call it fear and call it worry. When I started using worry, I always saw it as minimizing the way that I actually felt. When we feel threatened, our instinct is to react quickly. This is natural and can even be beneficial in some situations. However, when fear takes over, it can lead us to make decisions that are not in our best interest. For example, when someone is afraid of failure, they may avoid taking risks and try to avoid difficult tasks. This can lead to stagnation and a lack of growth. At times of continuous psychological attacks, I could not rest when rest was most likely the best course of action. My thoughts were not my own, forming judgments that were very different than anything I would have ordinarily thought made any sense. Disillusioned by the cloud of unrecognizable thoughts, at one point I remember carrying a weapon that I would not have even known how to use to defend myself if I were in a situation where I was even in danger. While I can view in hindsight the poor judgment in fear-based reactions, I'm uncertain whether I could go through continuous psychological attacks again and have any better reactions. Fear can lead to reckless behavior. When we are scared, we may act without thinking, which can have serious consequences. For example, when we are afraid of the unknown, we may take risks that we would not otherwise take. I eventually realized that I was a victim of group stalking. I eventually reached out for support for victims of group stalking, and I learned that I wasn't alone. This has helped my fear of the unknown. Fear can lead to impulsive and irrational decisions. It is important to take the time to think things through and consider the consequences before making any decisions. I've said it before in a previous video to think things through. It's a very tough thing to do as a targeted individual of group stalking. Living under so much stress and pressure can make anyone want to make drastic changes. If anything, just for the idea that life could be simpler or free of all the fear. I thought of saying all this last night, and this morning I thought this one might really sound like a cry for help, but to some, all my discussions might sound like that. At this point, honestly, I'm in a good place, and I'm just speaking from the heart. These psychological attacks occur at intervals and have been continuous since then, and at the same time, less intense. Taking a few moments to pause and reflect can help us make decisions that can save our own lives.